The AI for Good Global Summit, convened by ITU, recognizes the joint responsibility of governments, the private sector, United Nations agencies, academia, and others to ensure AI reaches its full potential while preventing and mitigating harms.
And it's a moment that calls for action. And today I'm calling on each of you to use this summit to help the world to better understand what kinds of regulations, what kinds of guardrails we need to put in place right now. So together, let's make it innovative, let's make it safe, and let's make it responsible for all. Thank you very much.
Welcome to AI for Good, the leading action-oriented, global and inclusive United Nations platform on AI. Organized by ITU, in partnership with 40 UN sister organizations, and co-convened with Switzerland. The goal of AI for Good is to identify practical applications of AI to advance the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and scale those solutions for global impact. In today's session, we're counting on you to use the live video wall feature to ask questions and post comments to help create an engaging discussion. We encourage you to stay until the end to chat, connect, ask questions, and network with our distinguished panelists and world-class AI experts in the neural network. It is now time to kick off the session and welcome our first speaker. The floor is yours.
Welcome. I'm Sarah Hammer, Executive Director at the Wharton School and Professor at the University of Pennsylvania Law School. And I'm very pleased to be here today with you with AI for Good. I'm especially pleased to welcome my friend and my colleague, Mike Demissie, Head of Machine Learning, Artificial Intelligence, and Blockchain at BNY Mellon. Mike, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
It's my pleasure to lead the AI for Good AI and Finance Thought Leadership Series and to welcome all of you to this informative webinar today where we will explore how AI works with finance and many other aspects of AI across the financial sector. We are deeply involved in this work at the Wharton School and in my research as a professor at the University of Pennsylvania Law School. And in fact, our work with AI for Good has many intersections that should be interesting and pleasing to all. We've been honored to have Mike involved with us and greatly appreciate his contributions and BNY Mellon's, not only to our work at the Wharton School, but across the financial sector, and as we dive deeper into AI and finance across our work at the United Nations. Mike, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me and looking forward to the discussion. So I'll dive right in, and just a quick update as my current role is actually a head of applied AI and practice. Before I dive in, wanted to kind of quickly give you a little bit of context about BNY Mellon. It is the oldest bank in the US. Actually this year we're celebrating our 240th year. We're founded by Alexander Hamilton. So we have a rich history that goes back centuries, if we go to the next slide. So it also means, we have seen a lot, right, including many economic cycles. And it's in our DNA to continue to innovate, adapt, and be there for our clients as their needs evolve. From providing, depository receipts for foreign shares in 1955 to buying the first computer in 1958 to lead the way in how you streamline bookkeeping practices, to pioneering in payments as the first bank to execute real-time payments. So we see innovation as core to who we are, and this carries through as we enter this era of immense transformation powered by AI. If we switch to the next slide, I mean, another aspect I would like to share with you is actually our scale. Everything that we do it at scale. Just to give you a little bit more color, we touch 20% of the world's investable assets. That's a unique vantage point that really allows us to help our clients. And, as we play a critical role in financial market infrastructure, for instance, serving more than 94% of the world's top banks, having the large, more than $47 trillion assets under custody, operating more than 30 years in over 100 markets. So that really just gives you the sheer scale of how we operate. And having this leading position in the businesses that we run, whether it is being the number one, global custodian or provider of issuer services, or the number one clearing firm for broker dealers, it shows you that our clients rely on us, and trust is really a cornerstone of everything that we do. And that's going to have an implication in terms of how we navigate the space with AI, which I'm going to touch on in a few minutes. And another part that is really important, and because of the role that we play, is resiliency. It is critical, and given the role that we play, it's informed by robust understanding of risks and how we manage them. And all of these have implication in how we tap into AI in a responsible way. If we switch to the next slide, want to share with you in terms of how we see AI, right? We see AI as a very transformative capability, and our approach and execution is anchored on the firm's strategy. And our firm strategy has this 3 pillars. It's doing more for our clients, running our company better, and powering our culture. And AI plays a key role in helping us, execute each of these. If we look at for our clients, providing them solutions that really help them be more data-driven in their decisions and identify risks, so they can manage them better. So just to give you an example, late trade settlement is an industry challenge. A small fraction of trades fail to settle on time. And this is consequential for clients. From a liquidity perspective, there are fines depending on what markets that you operate in. And so given the volume of trades that we touch, we saw an opportunity to use machine learning and identify early indicator that's going to give a signal whether a trade is going to settle late. And if we share that insight with clients, it gives them the chance to actually take action, and instead of finding out, after the fact that the trade did not settle on time. So that's really, you can see it's a real problem, and we're using, machine learning AI to solve and address a challenge that our clients care about, and that can be made possible because of the position that we play in the market as well. When we talk about in terms of how we use AI to run our company better, on the next slide, we introduce AI-enabled automation to streamline business processes, increase productivity, and produce a high-quality output. For example, we're leveraging AI to assist in liquidity management with improved forecasting. We can also make better informed decisions with this, and how we manage our capital and be better prepared for different scenarios, right? So you can, these capabilities are very powerful in making that possible. AI can also help us automate processing unstructured data. For instance, it can be client instructions. The solution can help us extract information, make it available to the operator for validation, and instead of people manually transcribing these set of activities as well. I know these days you can't be discussing AI without talking about generative AI. For instance, we're exploring generative AI to help generate draft responses to RFPs based on the knowledge base that we have from the thousands of prior responses that we have in the firm. And our client-facing team then will spend their time actually in reviewing and editing this draft to get really high-quality, timely responses for our clients. in a co-pilot mode, right? Like, I mean, so it really is actually helping them, use their time more effectively. And this co-pilot concept is that something that you're going to hear more, and we expect to see more as we continue to roll out capabilities across the firm, including to assist our engineers in how they develop software and, with a co-pilot code generation. The third part of our strategy is, how we can power our culture. And if you go to the next slide, it really talks about, like, in terms of, how we can tap into this AI power as a powerful capability to help our employees. And it can help us empower our talent with easier access to knowledge and information, whether that is about products, it can be about clients and policies and procedures. You can make that seamless. You can really leverage natural language and being able to interact with systems and retrieve the information that you're seeking. And it will also free up people's time so they can focus more on value-adding activities. And AI is also helping us, quickly process employee feedback, for example, identify themes for actionable insights based on the input that we get, from our colleagues across the firm. So it's a real way it's going to, help our employees in several dimensions. But that also gives us an opportunity to invest in our people. I have it if you move next, one area for us in this is, how we embrace a growth mindset, especially in a space that is rapidly evolving. That's a really, really important characteristic. And we're investing in learning. We're investing in having a learning platform that we call BK Learning. This is to help our colleagues, train, upskill, reskill to meet our evolving needs. It's an area that we're going to continue to invest. And this includes knowledge-based and hands-on training, programs with proficiency assessments and certifications that really help us actually be better prepared as the space evolves. We're also established a dedicated career path, for data scientists, tailored to attract, retain, and develop early, career talent with AI and machine learning background that we're going to find increasingly important as we, move forward. We're very, very intentional, and when we say about, investing in our people, and how we inspire innovation. If you go next, it's really is about, how we collaborate, and it's a very targeted efforts, because we've been, as I mentioned earlier, innovation is really core to our being. So starting with collaborating with leading academic and research institutions, on either a sponsored project or some target research. Also encouraging our teams to participate in hackathons. Recently, for instance, our team was placed second in over 150 global teams in the 2023 Microsoft Global Hackathon at the AI for Good. This was an executive challenge hosted in collaboration with the Red Cross. So it's really an area that we really allows our teams an opportunity to actually apply their learning in different ways, and not only solve problems and deliver for our clients, but at the same time make an impact in their communities as well. On that same theme, if you go next, I wanted to touch on quickly about how we continue to cultivate talent. We're actively working on becoming a top talent destination. We have doubled our analyst intake of new graduates from 2022 to 2023, and we continue to double that in next year as well. So this is something at a firm level that we are quite excited about, and we strongly believe in, and we're going to continue to invest in this as we move forward. But with all the background that I shared with you, I think it's important that, not only, AI presents these opportunities, the real opportunities to, to transform our businesses, deliver for our clients, run our companies better and help our employees. It's a powerful capability that we firmly believe that we need to have a responsible framework that we use when we're navigating this powerful capability. So if you move to the next page, it talks about, for instance, how AI not only presents emerging and unique but unique risks, but amplifies risks that are familiar to us in the past. And so it's as part of our DNA, as I mentioned, it's a day-to-day practice for us actually to conduct a comprehensive risk assessment on these emerging capabilities, and really look at it across several dimensions, right? Like including technology risks, operational risks, strategic risk, market risks, and so on and so forth. And particularly when you think of AI, it's important to understand the limitations and potential risk areas. And so model risk is an important area, ethical risks, data use, cyber, third party, intellectual property that has become actually even more prominent with the emergence of generative AI. So we take a very proactive approach in implementing controls and mitigating these factors, for these associated risks. And when you're doing that, really having ethical principles sit at the top of the internal data and AI ethics framework is important. It shapes actually our policy, it shapes our governance and guidance and training as well. We strongly believe that using AI within the strong risk management and governance framework is essential. It is expected of us. That's what, as I mentioned, trust being a core factor of, the bank, and what our clients expect. This is a space that we really take that responsibility seriously, and make sure, we navigate it in a responsible manner. And that allows us to, promote a compliant, responsible, and, ethical use of these powerful capabilities. But I would be remiss, if I say, look, we don't do this alone, right? We collaborate with industry partners, we engage with regulators. For example, we were a member of the Monetary Authority of Singapore's Veritas initiative, which outlined industry best practices under the FEAT principle. So this is fairness, ethics, accountability, and transparency for AI usage, something that we truly believe in. And this is helping, set industry standards and leading governance, frameworks with industry partners and regulators as well. And this emphasis on transparency and responsible AI has earned us, among other factors, a leading position in our industry rankings. And the most recent one, we are top 15 in AI maturity across global banks and top 10 in AI maturity across North America banks, and something that we're going to continue to work on to improve as well. So it's a space that we're quite excited about. We're absolutely leaning in to really, continue to learn, understand, and, find a responsible way of, using these capabilities. And look forward to discussing more in the questions and answers as well.
Mike, thank you so much for that excellent presentation. We learned a lot from it, and it's always a pleasure to hear about the activities that BNY Mellon is undertaking, and to really better understand the incredible role that you and your institution have in the financial sector globally. I'm looking to see whether there are any questions from our observers, and we'll just give it a moment. But in the meantime, I'll ask you a question myself, if that's all right.
Sure.
Excellent. So one thing I'd like to ask you a bit more about is what your thoughts are on globally where the priorities are and should be in AI. What are some of the most interesting use cases that you're seeing in other countries, non-US, and how can we help contribute to those ideas from our work here at Wharton?
Sure thing, Sarah. And I think, thematically, when you look at particularly the most recent advances of AI, generative AI, the application that you see is about, how you can leverage it to really tap into the knowledge bases that you have that may have been not easy to access, right? So all the unstructured data that you have, how can you simply interact with it and be able to actually tap into, this knowledge base that you have? But when you're doing it, it needs to be in a manner that you can actually trust that it's giving you the right answer. You can really, find the sources of information, and really, help you actually be more efficient and be in this co-pilot mode, right? Do what you do, but in a way that you can actually trust it. So I think thematically, we're going to see that, just across all applications. So I touched on it briefly, whether it is in knowledge work, the type of things that we do, including software generation, including any kind of content that we create. Can it help us actually create a good quality draft that you can actually leverage on this? So it's a very powerful capability. We're just starting to actually scratch the surface in terms of what it can do. And this is not even including the classical AI techniques that are actually quite powerful in forecasting and and the predictive analytics space or anomaly detection in other areas. But that said, we also need to understand the risks that it comes with, right? When it can generate really as good a quality of content, how do you guard against, for instance, fake information? How do you guard against, impersonation? Whether it is, images, voice, and all kind of, other aspects, that would come with this capability as well. So I think it's important for us to continue to understand, how it can be used in both ways, and what are the guardrails that we can put in to really just safeguard, the use of this capability. And I think that can only be, made possible by active engagement, active dialogue, and learning, and really, experimentation. Because it's not something that you can just slow down and hope, bad actors, for instance, are not going to use it differently.
Yeah, that's interesting, Michael, and we really appreciate your insight and your perspective on some of the thematic opportunities and challenges around AI and finance. We do have a few questions coming in to the chat, and one of the questions really notes what you and the bank have achieved over time with artificial intelligence. Duly noted, and I agree fully. The question is, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered related to the learning curve for adoption of AI in banking? So that's a great question. And
Sure.
As you've talked about before, one of the challenges of AI or with any new technology is education and getting folks up that learning curve.
Absolutely, Sarah. And I think it's particularly, in the early days, when you look at, this capability, it tends to be very abstract and inaccessible for a lot of people. Except for a small group of practitioners who really specialized in the study this capability, it was an abstract topic for the majority of folks. I think the one benefit of the generative AI emergence, and actually the ChatGPT adoption by wide group of people, is really helped actually make that real and see people started to see in terms of what does it actually do, How can it help me in my day-to-day activity as well? So there's already, I think we made a huge stride in demystifying that capability, and by having this technology being more accessible over the last 18 months or so. But that said, it's something that we need to continue to invest in. I think one thing that we've noticed from our experience as well is actually when you deploy certain use cases, it really not only helps people actually in that particular task, it actually shows people what is possible, right? Like, I mean, so people see it actually in my day-to-day activity. Oh, if it can do this, then actually maybe I can apply it in other areas as well. So really sparks imagination. There is an aspect of marrying the AI capability with the domain expertise that people have, right? Like, I mean, so the more we do that, actually now we're going to uncover more and more use cases. And so we just need to be very deliberate in pushing that learning and, planting the seeds across different parts of the organization, or, like, I mean, that each of us are in, to really just unlock more and more value.
Yeah, thank you so much for that insight, Michael. I really like what you said about being deliberate with the learning. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us with regards to artificial intelligence. So we have another question here related to knowledge base and knowledge objects. So this question is about how are we tracking the knowledge objects that are feeding an AI system? Should we do this or should we not bother? So I'm just interpreting that question. I think maybe it relates to data or the input model, for example, but I leave it to you how you think we should think about this question.
Sure. In the enterprise setting, in terms of, like, I mean, how we use, for instance, these generative AI, large language models in our setting, it's less about the knowledge that they come with out of the box, but more on their reasoning capability. Because the knowledge base typically in our setting is actually the data sets that we have directly. So in my prior example, for instance, I mentioned how we can use it to draft responses for RFP. In that case, the knowledge base that we're using is all the prior RFPs that we've done, the responses that we have actually generated, and that's the content. How we're tapping into the capability is really to make sense of the new question and being able to actually look at the several components of it and just go to the knowledge base and retrieve the right ingredients actually to assemble a new response. So at least from an enterprise setting, that's how we look at it. It's really, really important that you have well-curated quality content that you can rely on, because the responses that you're going to get or the insights you're going to get are going to be as good as that knowledge base. But of course, I mean, this question goes beyond enterprise setting in terms of in the public setting, how it can be used and what are the implications on intellectual property and others as well. So that's not lost on us. But in the more contained applications that we have the proper guardrails, I mean, to make sure the content that actually feeds into this is something that we can actively manage and verifies quality and data use as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really insightful, Michael. Thank you so much. And I appreciate what you said about the importance of quality inputs. That's something that we think about across AI, not just in finance, but for data more generally, data hygiene, data integrity. So we have another question here, and I think I'm going to pose it as a more general question about regulation and policy. And I'll just, I think, pose a very open question. As you know, there's a lot of activity globally around AI, and the EU with the EU AI Act, and here in the United States at the federal level, an executive order, and states acting. So, without commenting really on any specific matter, taking a position. I guess the question that might be useful for our listeners and observers would be, what are your thoughts on how we can best adapt to a still evolving regulatory and policy environment? And how can AI and how can financial institutions think best about this changing world that we're living in?
Sure thing. I think maybe I'll, to tackle it in a couple of parts. I think one, it is incumbent on us, given the role that we play, given the trust that our clients, put on us, to actually really find a responsible use of this capability, regardless of whether the regulation is in place or not, right? I think we, it's a responsibility that we need to take seriously, recognizing some of these regulations may take time to develop and actually be put in place. So that's why we're very keen in actually being proactive and engaging our industry partners, engaging our regulators, engaging our clients, and to really just have robust dialogue in this and get a strong understanding of actually the risks and what the controls that we need to put in place for us to do that. So I think irrespective of whether the regulation is already there or not, I think there's a responsibility that we should not shy away from. When you're looking at the regulation frameworks themselves, the questions that they're trying to address are common ones. That we talked about in terms of how do you guard against bias? How do you guard against misinformation? How do you make sure data use and privacy and all these important aspects are being looked after the right way? So I think it's those are the right questions to ask. I think those are the right most of them actually would have been tackled as part of prior technology advances as well. So we don't need to start from scratch on everything here, but understand, okay, what is new, what are the nuances, and how are we going to calibrate the mechanisms that we have in place as well. But I can't emphasize enough that we have a role to play in being proactive and actually leading the way in terms of how this should be used the right manner.
Well, that's wonderful, Michael. Thank you so much for that insight. And I know that we're all grateful for your leadership and BNY Mellon's leadership in the space regarding AI and finance and our changing global policy and regulatory environment. So I think that wraps us up for questions. We appreciate your very insightful presentation and the opportunity to work with you. I personally thank you for that. It's always a pleasure. And I want to thank AI for Good for hosting us and for hosting the AI and Finance Thought Leadership Series. Michael Demissie, Managing Director, Head of Applied AI and Practice at BNY Mellon's AI Hub, and a great leader in the space who we've been honored to work with at the Wharton School and the University of Pennsylvania, and looking forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the work that you do. I really appreciate partnering with you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for participating in today's AI for Good session. We hope you've learned something new, innovative, and engaging in today's event. We now encourage you to continue the conversation on the live video wall in the neural network. Here you can ask questions, like and comment, share links, complete the poll, connect with interesting profiles, or speak one-on-one using the chat and video function. We invite you to explore the lobby, try the smart matching quiz, visit the virtual exhibits, poster boards, the eShop, and build your personalized AI for Good program. Let's shape the future of AI for Good.
The AI for Good Global Summit, convened by ITU, recognizes the joint responsibility of governments, the private sector, United Nations agencies, academia, and others to ensure AI reaches its full potential while preventing and mitigating harms.
And it's a moment that calls for action. And today I'm calling on each of you to use this summit to help the world to better understand what kinds of regulations, what kinds of guardrails we need to put in place right now. So together, let's make it innovative, let's make it safe, and let's make it responsible for all. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.